Hi, I'm Tiffany. This is Daniel, and we are here with Stunning Stays.
We are talking about the importance of setting expectations for your short-term rentals with guests, okay? Guest expectations. How exciting is that? It's very critical to set up expectations with your guests because if they don't have a proper expectation, they're going to be giving a potentially bad review and they're not going to be having a good experience. So on our properties, we send out an automated message that sets up several expectations when it comes to quiet time, when it comes to certain specific property rules. And so this is critical because the guest is going to review that and they're going to be like, okay, this is what to expect. For example, at one specific property, it's higher end, and we have cameras on site. We have a doorbell camera ring. We also have a couple in the backyard as well that overlook the sport court and the pool area. And so we are very clear about that in the description. We're also very clear about it when they check in to say, hey, just like at other hotels and common areas in the backyard, there's cameras, just so they're not alarmed, they're not surprised, and there's no, false expectation of there's not a camera. Hey, we had one guest that actually turned the camera. They said they don't need to be looking. Fortunately, they did not leave any damages. My point is having the cameras up there. We set the expectation because if a guest shows up and they're like, why are there cameras here? They didn't expect it. They're going to be left with the unsatisfaction or a bad experience and say, oh, I didn't know there was going to be cameras. I don't want cameras in the backyard. I want privacy. Of course, it's against all the OTA's platforms of course not to have any cameras on the inside, and
Which is understandable.
It's totally understandable. We don't have that at all. So it's critical to set expectations when it comes to the house rules. Anything unusual about the property, okay? In your listing description, if it's a property that backs up to a major road, you want to disclose that. You want to be so clear that there's no reason why they would give you a bad review or that they would have a bad experience at your property. So if they understand that, hey, that property, for example, may back up to a busy road, or that property has a quiet time at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the evening, you want to set those expectations up so that they don't have a false expectation to go have a party or have noise complaints or anything like that.
The specific property that you're talking about, we actually had someone, because we're so clear in our description that we say, hey, it backs up to a main road. This specific property backs up to a busier road. You might be able to hear some traffic. It was interesting. We had someone message us and say, hey, thanks for letting me know this. Can you really hear cars? Is it really noisy? And how do we respond? This will determine, every person's different. You can't say your opinion. You have to state facts when you're dealing with information on these sites. So we always say, hey, it's a busy road. I can't say how loud it is. You can hear cars when the waterfall's on. You can't hear them as much, but you need to understand you will hear cars. And I'm not going to say otherwise because I don't want you to be upset. They ended up staying. They were very happy, but she was worried about her mother because her mother was sensitive to sound. And so it's so important that you're so clear, overly clear, that if there's a possibility that they're going to hear something, see something, or have something happen, that it's already in the description. That way no one can ever come back to you and say, well, you didn't tell me. It's so like when you have pools, another thing is make sure that they understand if your pool is simultaneously, meaning if you only heat the hot tub and the main pool is not getting filtered, it's going to get cloudy. So one of the things that we do and make sure that we are very specific on is, in this specific property that you're talking about, is you need to understand only run the hot tub a certain amount of time and put it back to the pool so it filters so it doesn't get cloudy. Because if you only run the hot tub for your entire stay, that pool is going to be very cloudy and you're going to be upset. Because we want to make sure it looks great. And so we stipulate all that. So all the what ifs that sometimes you don't have to worry about in other businesses, you need to make sure you worry about in the short-term rental business. Like, what if they do this? What could happen? And make sure that it's all spelled out so you're so clear with your expectations so they understand and they can't come back to you.
It's very important to communicate so clearly that you cannot be misunderstood. Exactly. And the pool situation on those nice homes that have heated pools, we also send out a list of instructions on how to use the app. Okay, it's on a smartphone or any smart device. They can download the app and they have access to the login so they can control any water features, any fountains or water slides, and also how to control the heating on the pool and or the hot tub. So it's very important to send out those instructions as well, and how to function those, how to use those operations.
So do you know the big question on what we're talking about today, and is, as you're watching this, is do you know how to be very specific to bring more success in your short-term rental? Because how are you so clear with your guests that they have no misunderstanding? And that's important in this business, because the better communication, the better the experience, the better the star rating. Everything lines up. If they walk into a property and they see even a next door property that might not look great, that better have been stipulated before they ever walked or arrived. Like, there should be pictures around. What kind of neighborhood are you in? Is there anything ran down? Make sure there's no what ifs that they can see that you haven't told them about.
Exactly. Communicate so clearly that there's no reason why they would have a bad experience. There's nothing that was a surprise. That's critical for your properties and your hosting experiences, to make sure that you set up these expectations. You're setting up what to expect of the property, any rules, anything that they could question about the property.
People that are viewing this, Daniel, right now could be going, oh my goodness, this is a whole full-time job. How do you do this? How do you over communicate? I would have to be on email all day long. No, you don't. In our software, or if you're in Airbnb or VRBO or these OTAs that we talk about, you can automate all this. You can set up automation emails so that they go out at a certain time. And so once you set up one property, it's very easy. Just make sure that these are set up, and the most important thing is send them more than once. As a vacationer, or as let's say you're going and you're going to go vacation to Costa Rica and you're going to rent an Airbnb, and someone emails you, how many times do you forget about that first email that you booked 6 months in advance? So make sure when you're automating these emails, you're telling them more than once. You're giving them information more than once. It's not just going 6 months out in advance. It's happening when 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, before they're arriving, when they arrive, after they arrived. That they make sure they have so much communication with you that there's no misunderstanding. And you can automate all this. You can automate text messaging so that it goes to their phone. 90% of people like text messaging more than emails. I mean, it just is what it is in this market. In this day and age, everybody likes it's on their phone.
It's an effective way to always get feedback from guests too. So when we've been in contact, this comes from experience of asking for guest feedback to say, hey, what could have improved your experience? What did you like? That's when they came back and they've given suggestion of, hey, this would be better if we had a more detailed instructions on how to use this, or how to use the hot tub, or how to turn this on. And even though it may have been sent, that's still feedback. So that's when you can come back and tweak and then change when you're sending out those messages to the guests, so they can come back and say, oh yeah, this is great. Like, thank you for sending it then. And you can tweak it and improve it so that they can have a better experience at your home.
100%. So key point today is make sure you over communicate. If you think you're communicating enough, you're probably not. Over communicate, make sure they're getting the instructions, the communication they need, so your guest has a top-notch experience.